Well, we're back with part whatever of our Lotus restoration. You know, we get more emails about this car. What's Jim doing? What's Jim Hallman doing on the Lotus? We want more updates. We want updates. This seems to be a project that fascinates people because it's a fascinating car. Jim Hall, of course, our chief fabricator. We call this Mr. Hall's Opus because this is his baby, and he's doing just a wonderful job. The exhaust system is in. Tell us about that, Jim.
Well, you know, I think one of the things about this car, it's the law of unintended consequences. Every time we do something, it's like, oh, it's not simple.
Yeah. Yeah.
Back here on the exhaust system, this was a race car body. So this is a 26R body. They had a little opening where you can put a tailpipe out. We need a muffler.
Right.
So that means we got to hack away at the body. We have to create a new opening so the muffler can go in it. The other thing, Lotus wasted no time or effort on almost any part that could fall off of the car. It's going to fall off.
Right.
So they hung their exhaust system just straight from the fiberglass body. Okay, well, so now I've made some stainless steel mounts. We're hanging it on Jaguar, sort of, they're like rubber band mounts.
Right. Little donuts, right?
Little donuts. We have to, and nothing lines up. So now the exhaust system has to take a curve,
Right.
do an S-turn in order to get to the tunnel. Up front, there's no clearance for the exhaust pipe.
Right.
So now I'm making an oval pipe that's like this tall. We've got that over there. To get underneath the transmission, because we got that special, really cool 6-speed transmission.
Yeah, that's going to be great.
Unintended consequences.
Yeah. Well,
Back here in the back.
Look how sanitary it is. Here's our fuel pump here. Our battery, we use the Optima batteries because not having any fluid inside, you can hang them upside down, sideways, whatever. There's no gases to escape and kind of rot out the bottom of the trunk or any of the mounts. So that's the best battery for this application.
Besides being my Opus,
Yes.
at some point I realized this is my homage to all those great fabricators that I learned from back in my day, kind of thing. So you look at the battery box. I've had this black anodized with the gold rivets. That reminds me of the Shadow race cars. The guys I knew on the Shadow race team, Don Nichols, that's how they did everything. Other stuff on here is just like Lotus did it. Other things are like the way Lola built their race cars. So, I mean, this thing, because of the way it's evolved, it's like, well, I'm doing it for all those guys that are no longer with us.
Yeah, very cool.
This is the beginnings of my exhaust system.
There you go. As you can
We
see.
couldn't buy that in a catalog.
No. That's why when you look at the Bugatti Atlantique, it has 6 tiny pipes coming out because there was not enough room to get a big oval pipe in there. But Jim has done it a very elegant way as well. So this should have a nice sound, actually. Now, as you can see, the engine is in. It's got to come out again. What have we done since the last time people were here? We got the fans in.
I'm doing all the plumbing now, so when we get in close and look at this stuff, I've done all the oil hoses, all the water hoses, built the swirl pot that connects the radiators, finished up the air box for the carburetors. That's black anodized.
And explain how this works.
Swirl pot, the water comes out of the engine and literally swirls around the tank, and that takes any air bubbles out. And then it goes into the radiator where it gets cool, goes back to the engine. These other lines are all, we refer to them as steam bleeds. Any places where air might get trapped in the system, we use a bleed so that any air bubbles can get back to the tank. Also, when we look down in here, we're using a heat exchanger rather than a radiator for the oil.
Right.
So instead of an oil cooler, it's a heat exchanger, which means you fire this thing up. This is like a race engine, and you want it to warm up quickly. You want the oil to come up to temperature before you go drop the hammer on it.
Right.
So with a heat exchanger, it'll always keep the oil right about the same temperature of the water. So you'll always have like 180-degree oil.
Right.
The engine will be happy, and we'll be happy.
Very good, very good. And once again, that's our aluminum engine that we built specifically for this car, and it's about 45 pounds less than the equivalent engine that would have been in it.
And crazy things, to put the heat exchanger in here,
Yeah.
I have to come from the right-hand side of the car, come all the way over to the left-hand side of the car, go into the heat exchanger, come back, make another 180-degree turn. The water gets to do a slalom in this.
Yeah. And very cool, here's our little Hitachi alternator. That's a Japanese alternator. If you've ever seen a Lotus Elan generator, it's as big as the engine, isn't it? Just this enormous thing. So that's a little modern concession there to our friends from Japan. It's very tiny, and it puts out more than enough. What does it put out? Any idea?
It's 100 amp.
100 amp. Okay, very good. And what was the generator on this? About 60, 70?
Oh no, it probably was like 22.
Yeah, is that what it was? That low, huh? Wow. Okay. Well, there you go.
Okay, we now have our wheels. Pure magnesium.
Look at that. Realize how light that is? Look at that. Wow. I mean, let's see if it floats. It's almost like a helium wheel. I mean, that's pretty amazing.
We're going to have some machine work we have to do to that. The other thing, of course, we were talking about, we're going to put some like Willwood brakes on it, like we've done on the other cars. When we got into it, it was like, holy cow, it's a huge engineering thing because nobody has done it before on this particular car. And so we decided to go with what are period authentic brakes for it. These would have been the racing brakes. It's a copy of a Girling AR caliper like you found in the Formula One cars in the 60s. And this is kind of an homage to Team Lotus, 1965. Right. So we have the AR calipers. I'm getting ready. One of the next steps will be making all the brake lines that fit all this together. Same thing with all the hoses and everything that we've done. Everything has to be prefabricated.
And we have our beautiful knockoff wheel.
So,
I mean, look how light that is. That's pretty amazing. Just spin that on there.
And easily done in a pit stop.
The most frightening thing about this car, the heaviest thing in this car is me. I feel terrible. Everything about this car is light. I get in and I'm like 30% of the weight of the vehicle. It's very depressing. But as you can see, it's just coming along beautifully. And
it's kind of like framing a house.
Yeah.
You know, some stuff happens really fast, and then all the finish work takes time. But we're getting to the point where this is the finish work.
Yeah. So we are very close.
We're going to be driving this baby soon.